The deep thrum of the aircraft carrier USS Independence echoed across the Pacific night, vibrating through steel decks and the boots of every sailor stationed aboard. It was a sound that meant readiness, a mechanical heartbeat reminding the crew that their floating city was alive and always alert. But on this particular evening, the mood was unusually serene. A stillness clung to the air, a calm that came not from peace, but from routine. Lieutenant Commander Jessica Jacques Hart stood near the edge of the flight deck, helmet tucked. Under one arm, eyes scanning the horizon. A wisp of sea breeze tugged at the ends of her ponytail beneath her cap. The setting sun had long vanished below the ocean's edge, leaving a navy blue canopy above them. Stars had begun to sprinkle the sky-silent spectators to the coming night operations. Jessica, WSNT, the type to dwell on omens, but years of flight time had taught her one thing. Calm nights never stayed calm for long. She turned toward her. Jet and FA-18F Super Hornet, gleaming even under the low lighting of night ops. The jet was a beast of a machine, fast, responsive, and built to dominate the skies. She ran her hand along the nose cone affectionately. "You and me again," she whispered to it, a quiet ritual before every flight. Her crew chief offered a knowing grin. They'd seen her do this countless times. Tonight's mission was standard. Night formation flying with her two wingmen. Lieutenant Callahan and Lieutenant Reyes. Both were skilled aviators, but young compared to Jacques. She was the lead, the experienced one, the one everyone trusted when things got tight. She climbed the ladder and settled into the cockpit, the familiar layout wrapping around her like a second skin. Her fingers danced over switches and toggles with mechanical precision. APU on. Fuel checks. HUD clear. Comes green. On the radio, the flight deck controller's voice crackled through. Raptor lead. You are clear for launch in 3 winds. Calm. Sea state green. Jessica responded, cool and clear. Raptor lead copies. Launching in sequence. Moments later, the deck crew signaled thumbs up. Her jet was locked into the catapult system. Jessica braced herself. The steam hissed. Then, without warning, she was flung forward, catapulted into the night with a brutal force that pressed her into the seat. The ocean vanished beneath her in formation. Her two wingmen launched seconds apart, forming up with practiced precision. The 3 jets were now cutting across the black sky like silver ghosts, their formation tight, their minds focused inside her cockpit. Jessica felt something that always came alive during night flights, a heightened awareness, a sense of complete isolation mixed with total control. She wasn't just flying a machine. She was the machine. Radio chatter was light. The mood was focused, but relaxed. Reyes cracked a joke about coffee in the wardroom. Callahan asked if they'd beat their previous time through the maneuver pattern. Jessica responded with dry humor, but stayed locked in. She always flew like lives depended on it. Because someday they would. The air traffic controller on the Independence updated them on weather and ship course. Nothing unusual. Everything sounded normal, too normal. That's when Jessica noticed something odd, a faint distortion on her radar. Nothing major, just a glitch, a hiccup in the system. She tapped the screen. Still there, her brow furrowed. Raptor 2, do you have any radar interference? Negative, lead. Looks clean. She nodded, mentally logging the glitch. Could be the system. Could be the carrier's relay. Probably nothing. Still, a chill crawled across her neck. She flipped to the backup comms channel and did a systems scan. The readings came back green. Her gut told her to shrug it off, but that same gut had saved her more than once. Jessica trusted her gut more than she trusted any tech on board. She shook off the unease and focused forward. The mission was half over. In 15 minutes, they'd be back on the carrier deck, sipping bad coffee and laughing about cloud formations. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. Far below them, on the Independence, a flicker of power loss surged through the main electrical grid. A silent cascade of malfunctions began to spread unnoticed at first. One system after another tripped, like dominoes quietly falling in the dark. Jessica, cruising high above, had no idea yet, but soon she would. And when it happened, the night wouldn't just go dark, it would disappear completely. Asterisk, at 23,000 feet above the Pacific, the three A-18F Super Hornets coasted in tight formation, their navigation lights blinking faintly against the stars. The moon was absent tonight, leaving only the night vision glow of cockpit displays to fight off the void. Jessica Jock's heart led the flight with effortless control, her gaze fixed forward, scanning the darkness like a hunter. The trio of jets was performing perfectly, arching into a wide right-hand bank as they finished the last segment of their training pattern. Jessica's hands rested steady on the throttle and stick. Her helmet HUD glowed green across her visor. Altitude, heading, speed, formation status all reading nominal. Below them, the black ocean lay still and silent, a giant, sleeping under the blanket of stars. She toggled her comb. Raptor flight, looking good. Let's bring it back in. Maintain formation. Prep for recovery. Callahan, on her right flank, responded with his usual flair. Copy, lead. Smoothest ride of the week. Let's not jinx it. Reyes, trailing slightly behind, chimed in next. I vote we fly one more lap just to delay that powdered mac and cheese dinner. Jessica smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Something still itched at the back of her mind. That radar glitch earlier, it hadn't come back, but it had felt off. Her instincts, sharpened by years of real-world deployments and close calls, were whispering. She scanned the comms channels again, checking in with the USS Independence. Tower, Raptor 1 requesting status for recovery pattern. You copy? Silence. She frowned. She checked the frequency, toggled to backup, and repeated, Tower, Raptor 1 on secondary. Confirm recovery status. Still nothing. Con issue? She muttered, half to herself. But then the worst thing happened. Not a sound, not a warning alarm, but a gut-punching silence. The radar display, which moments ago showed the bright green icon of the Independence just beneath the horizon, vanished. No signature, no beacon, no carrier. Raptor flight, this is lead, she called sharply. Confirm if you have the ship on radar. A brief pause. Reyes responded first, tension now crackling in his voice. Negative, lead, just lost contact. Radar's clean. Callahan echoed the same. It's gone. The ship's not pinging. Jessica's mind shifted instantly, as if flipping a combat switch. Her tone changed, firmer, colder, the voice of command. Switch to TAC Channel 3. Emergency protocol. Maintain altitude. Stay sharp. All three jets dropped into radio silence as they moved to the secure comms channel. Jessica tapped her systems again, trying every diagnostic she knew. She still had fuel. Engine performance remained stable. But without the carrier's TACAN, beacon or visual landing was impossible. It was like the Independence had disappeared into the ocean. But that wasn't the worst of it. Suddenly, Reyes' voice pierced the channel again. Lead, I think we've got a blackout. Ship lights are out. I'm getting nothing visually. Jessica whipped her head down to the expected coordinates, where the ship should have glowed on the ocean's surface. Nothing. Not a single pinpoint of light. The largest and most powerful warship on the sea had become a phantom, and they were flying blind. Her pulse accelerated, but her hands didn't waver. She steadied her breathing. Calm under pressure was her default setting. She flipped her HUD to night vision overlay and tried to scan the sea. Still nothing. No deck lights, no movement. Just black water and blacker sky. She cursed under her breath. The Independence hadn't just lost radar. It had gone into total blackout. Fuel state check, she said into the mic, voice clipped. Both wingmen confirmed. They had 15 to 20 minutes of flight time left. Max. Jessica did the math. Diverting to a land base wasn't an option. They were too far out, and refueling wasn't possible. Their only hope was the ship. The ship they could know. Longer see. Her voice dropped to a whisper. We're bringing these birds home. One way or another, she had trained for high-risk situations. She had practiced emergencies, flameouts, hydraulic failures, even simulated landings on systems failure. But nothing not in the simulators, not in combat zones, had ever prepared her for this. Landing a $70 million fighter jet in complete darkness on a powerless carrier, with lives hanging in the balance? No training could teach that. Only instinct. Jessica set her jaw. We're not dying tonight, she said quietly. With that, she banked into position. The impossible had just become reality. Jessica's eyes darted over her controls, her HUD, the ocean below, searching for anything, any sign of the Independence. But the night had swallowed the carrier whole. The deck was gone. No shimmering landing lights, no floodlit crew guiding the path, not even the faint hum of the ship's navigation beacon dot. It was as if the ocean itself had erased the carrier from existence. Raptor flight, she called, voice steady despite the roar in her ears. The deck's out. Full blackout. TACAN's down. This is not a drill. Silence lingered on the line. Both wingmen knew what this meant. A flight deck blackout at sea wasn't just rare, it was nearly impossible. Layers of redundant systems were designed to prevent exactly this. The carrier's lights, its radar, its landing aids, they all had backups of backups. For everything. To fail at once was catastrophic. But Jessica didn't have time to dwell on why. She flipped to the emergency frequency, calling the tower again. Independence, this is Raptor-led. We've got you in total blackout. Request deck status. Request emergency recovery. Respond. Nothing. She toggled to the backup comms. Still dead air. Callahan's voice finally crackled through. His confidence had cracked. Lead, we can't see the ship. No lights, no radio. What's the plan? Reese's voice followed, tighter, more urgent. Fuel's burning, Jocks. I've got maybe 12 minutes. We divert. We're wet. Jessica closed her eyes. For half a second, thinking fast. The nearest airfield was over 200 nautical miles away. They couldn't reach it. Air-to-air refueling wasn't even on the table. They were too low, too far, and too heavy. They had one option. Land on the blacked-out deck. Or eject and hope the freezing ocean didn't claim them first. Jessica's jaw tightened. We're bringing these jets down. Listen carefully. We'll land, one at a time. I'll talk you in by voice. I've got enough flight hours on this deck. I know it like I know my heartbeat. Silence. Then Callahan's voice, soft but certain. Copy that, lead. Reese followed. You get us home, Jocks. Jessica keyed into the emergency shipboard frequency. She prayed someone on deck was listening. This is Raptor lead. We've lost visual and instrument approach. If anyone can hear me, mark the deck with whatever you've got. Flashlights, glow sticks, whatever's left. There was no response. But as she made another pass toward where the ship should be, she saw it tiny, bobbing pinpricks of light, flashlights. Crew waving handheld lights in desperation. It wasn't enough to see the full deck. It was barely enough to mark the wire positions, but it would have to be enough. Deck crew is up, she called to her flight. I can see them, barely. We're going to use those lights as our only visual reference. Forget the systems. Forget the instruments. You fly on my words now. Understand? Understood. Jessica took a deep breath. They were flying at night, over open ocean, toward an invisible ship with no guidance systems and no margin for error. But she knew this carrier. She had landed on it hundreds of times. She could see it in her mind. The first landing would be the hardest, and that one wasn't hers. Callahan, you're first. Follow my voice. I'll put you on the deck. Jessica's hands were steady as stone as she began guiding him down. Turn to 180. Descend to 700 feet. Power back, little more. Left 2 degrees. Perfect. Callahan's breathing was audible on the comms. Flashlight positions are left of centerline. Aim just to the right. You'll feel the deck before you see it. Jessica's heart pounded, but she stayed calm. She had to be the anchor. 300 feet. Power up slightly. Nose down. Commit. Now. Callahan's jet roared toward the invisible deck. Jessica's voice sharpened. Cut power, now. A tense second passed, then a heavy clank came through the radio. The arresting hook had caught. He made it. Against all odds. Callahan's voice was pure disbelief. I'm down, I'm down. Jessica exhaled just once before calling the next. Name. 2 more to go. The night was far from over. Asterisk, the sound of Callahan's landing hook slamming onto the deck echoed in Jessica's helmet like a war drum. He was down. 1 jet safe. 1 pilot saved, but 2 still circled above the black ocean. Jessica didn't let herself feel relief, not yet. Her heart was thudding like a piston in her chest, but her voice stayed calm, calculated, surgical. Reyes, you're next, she said. I've got you back. You're going to land this. His response was immediate, clipped and tense. Copy. Lead, but I can't see anything. I mean nothing. Jessica understood that fear. The ocean below was a solid black wall, the ship a barely visible smear of shadow, if that. All they had to work with were a few bobbing flashlight beams on the flight deck, and Jessica's voice guiding them home. You don't need to see it, she replied. You just need to listen. Trust my voice, Reyes. You trust me? Another pause. Then, with my life. Jessica switched to her internal checklist. She was mentally running through every approach she had ever flown. Every landing on a rolling, pitching deck. Every time she'd brought a jet in low and hot under pressure. This was all of them at once times 10. She checked her HUD, lined. Up her own jet, just above the deck, and then dropped back slightly so Reyes could follow in. Turn heading 172. Drop to 800 feet. Steady hands. No sudden moves. Reyes obeyed. His Super Hornet curved gently toward the invisible deck. Jessica kept feeding him updates, watching his altitude and position on her screen. Throttle back. Watch your sink rate. You're good. You're perfect. Just keep her steady. Then, suddenly dash turbulence. A pocket of rogue air caught Reyes' jet. He dipped sharply. Reyes, nose up. Nose up, he recovered, but he was shaken. Bam! Almost lost it. You didn't, Jessica cut in, firm but calm. Eyes forward. One shot at this. Below, the tiny cluster of flashlight beams were moving now, swaying with the ship's roll. A gust must have hit the deck, shifting its angle. Jessica adjusted immediately. Left 1 degree. Dropped to 600. You're lined up. You're in the groove. The groove. The sacred path to carrier landing, just above stall speed, just below. Safe altitude, landing gear out, hook down. Eyes fixed on the point of no return. Jessica narrowed her focus. Her voice dropped to a whisper, soft but unshakable. You're 30 seconds from touchdown. Ease in. Don't fight it. Reyes followed. Her lead like it was scripture. Every command she gave, he executed. Blind, but faithful. 15 seconds. Flaps good. Altitude steady. This is it. Commit. Jessica closed her eyes for half a heartbeat, then said, "Cut power now." A long, deadly pause. Then the glorious crack-clang of steel dash on dash steel. Reyes was down. His voice came in, half laughing, half breathless. "I'm down. Holy hell, I'm down." Jessica finally let herself breathe. 2 jets. 2 lives. Landed on a dead carrier in pitch-black night, with nothing but her voice and gut instincts. Now only one bird remained in the air. Hers. She checked her fuel. 5 minutes left. Just enough for one pass. No do-overs. Her hands adjusted the throttle. Automatically, the jet obeying her like a loyal steed. But she wasn't relying on avionics anymore. Her radar was dark. Her instruments were skewed. She was flying on muscle memory, and her voice crackled over the emergency frequency. Raptor lead, final approach, 1 shot, coming home. Below. On the carrier, the deck crew waved their flashlights like torches in the void. They were guiding her, rooting for her. A dozen sailors risking their own lives on the deck, just to give her a ghost of a landing zone. She banked in final turn. Landing gear down, flaps extended. Tail hook arm. Jessica whispered to herself, "You've done this 1,000 times. Just land the damn bird." She descended, 800 feet. 600, 400. Her eyes locked on those scattered lights. Her brain filled in the deck. 300, 200. The ship shifted under her. She adjusted by instinct. 100. Nose up. Power back. She couldn't see the wires, but she felt them. Cut power. Steel screamed. The hook caught. Her jet slammed. Down with a force that shook her bones. And just like that, she was home. The deck crew erupted in cheers. Over the radio, Callahan and Reyes shouted in triumph. But Jessica just sat there, breathing, hands still tight on the controls, heart still. Racing. 3 jets. 0 visibility. No guidance. No lights. Only trust. Only guts. Only her. The roar of jet engines faded, replaced by the eerie hum of emergency power. Jessica's heart climbed out of her cockpit slowly, every muscle tense, every nerve buzzing. Deck crew members rushed toward her, glowing flashlights in hand, their faces streaked with sweat and adrenaline. But Jessica didn't celebrate. She wasn't done yet. Behind her, Callahan and Reyes emerged from their jets, visibly shaken but alive, nodding in disbelief that they were standing on solid steel again. Even the most battle-hardened crew members on deck were expressions of disbelief and awe. What they had just witnessed shouldn't have been possible. Yet it happened. But now came the question that had been burning in Jessica's mind since the moment radar vanished. Why? She stormed down the ladder to the hangar bay and pushed past the crowd of stunned sailors. Below deck, the atmosphere was different. Dim red emergency lights flickered in the corridors. Systems buzzed and flicked, but didn't fully power on. The ship, for all its steel might, felt vulnerable like a blind giant fumbling in the dark. Commander Harlan met her near the CIC, Combat Information Center, face drawn tight with fatigue. He was a hard man to rattle, but even he looked shaken. Jessica didn't wait for permission. "What the hell happened, sir?" That blackout wasn't a system failure. That was surgical. Harlan nodded grimly. "We think it was an EMP." Jessica froze. "Electromagnetic pulse?" He motioned her into the CIC. Inside, systems were only partially restored. Screens flickered, radios sputtered, and satellite links blinked in and out. Tech officers scrambled from terminal to terminal, manually rebooting entire arrays. 20 minutes before you lost contact, we picked up a strange blip. Low altitude, slow speed, no IFF, Harlan said. Before we could scramble intercept, The pulse hit us, fried every radar, radio, and electronic system above deck. Jessica clenched. Her fists. Was it an attack? We don't know. He lowered his voice. But this was no random event. It was precise, tactical. Someone knew exactly where to hit us, and how hard. Jessica's blood chilled. Who? She asked. That's what Intel is scrambling to figure out, Harlan replied. Could have been a drone, could have been. Something new, but whoever it was wanted us blind. Jessica sat in silence for a moment, the implications sinking in. An EMP strike, especially at sea, wasn't just bold, it was strategic. Whoever deployed it didn't want to destroy the Independence. They wanted to test it, measure the Navy's response. See how far they could go without starting a war. And they had picked the worst possible night, or the perfect one. Why wasn't there backup? She asked. Redundant systems? O-power. This ship is built to survive a nuclear blast. Harlan nodded. Which is why this hit us so hard. Whatever was used wasn't conventional. Not any tech we've seen before. It bypassed our fail-safes. Jessica's stomach turned. The blackout hadn't just been a fluke. It had been a message. She stood slowly, her voice low but resolved. We were the test site. Harlan didn't argue. Report will go straight to naval intelligence. But what you and your team just pulled off, that's already echoing through the fleet. Jessica shook her head. We almost lost everything. Sir, if Callahan or Reyes had hesitated for a second. If I hadn't been flying lead, you didn't lose them, Harlan said. You brought them home. In the dark, on instinct. And whoever tried to take that from you just learned that even blind, we land on our feet. Jessica nodded, but her thoughts weren't on medals or recognition. They were on the sky, on the dark, on the threat lurking out there. Whoever launched the pulse wasn't done yet. The next morning, the USS Independence floated eerily calm over the Pacific, an ocean of silence surrounding her. From above, she looked like any other aircraft carrier in standby mode. But inside, the crew was on edge. Every movement was sharper, every whisper laced with tension. Jessica Hart hadn't slept. After hours of debriefings, simulations, and tech reviews, she stood alone at the end of the flight deck, staring out at the horizon, as if it might blink back at her. She hadn't shaken the feeling that this wasn't over. Callahan approached from behind, his boots echoing lightly on the metal. You know you're supposed to be resting, right? Jessica didn't look away. I'll rest when I know what hit us. He stood beside her, squinting into the morning haze. Word is, they're sending a recon bird up in a few hours. Something stealthy. High altitude. Jessica crossed her arms. They should have done that last night. They didn't expect war games to turn into this. A deck officer approached them, breathless. Commander Hart, you're needed in the CIC. Now, we've got something. Jessica didn't wait. She and Callahan rushed to the Combat Information Center, where red lights still glowed like embers. Inside, Lieutenant Kim, the ship's signal analyst, was hunched over a monitor, eyes wide with disbelief. Start from the top, Jessica ordered. Kim nodded quickly. We started rebooting Spectrum Scanner's old analog receiver stuff, unaffected by the AIM-P, and we picked up something weird. She tapped a key. An audio file played a low, repeating frequency. Not static, not natural. It was a signal, repeating in short bursts. Pattern. Callahan frowned. Morse? Kim shook her head. Not exactly, but definitely structured, like it was meant to be decoded. Jessica leaned in. What's it saying? Kim hesitated. We ran it through a translation model. It's transmitting in a hybrid signal Morse mixed with old Soviet naval code. It took time to cross-reference. The room quieted. Jessica's eyes narrowed. And Kim looked directly at her. It's saying, "We see you," repeating, every 30 seconds. Jessica's stomach sank. The message wasn't just a taunt. It was a statement. Someone out there hadn't just hit them with an EMP. They were still watching, still listening. And now they wanted the crew to know it. "Where's it coming from?" Jessica asked. "Can't pinpoint yet. It's bouncing, hopping frequencies, hiding behind commercial bands. But the signal's strong. That means it's close. Maybe within 50 miles. Callahan shook his head. "How can they be that close without us seeing them?" Jessica didn't answer right away. Her mind raced, because they're not using conventional tech, she said finally. "We're looking for a ghost with tools made for tanks." Kim glanced back at her screen. "And there's more." At 0400 hours, the signal changed briefly. 1 minute. It said a different message. She brought it up. The room went quiet again. The new message flashed on the monitor. "Next time, we take the wings." Jessica felt a chill crawl down her spine. "They're not done," she whispered. Commander Harlan entered, just as the words appeared on screen. He read it, face hardening. "Intel's scrambling an intercept drone. Nothing we have on board can trace this. And satellite passes over this region won't help until nightfall." Jessica turned to him. "Sir, permission to lead a recon flight. I want to go up now. You've barely slept." "I don't need sleep. I need answers." Harlan studied her. "You already did the impossible once, Commander." Jessica held his gaze. "Then let me do it again." After a long pause, he nodded. "You launch in 1 hour." Jessica turned and strode from the CIC, her mind already preparing for what came next. Whoever was out there had played their hand. Sent a message. Shown they could reach into America's most secure defenses and pull the lights out. But she would return the message, in steel, in flight, in fire. The catapult system groaned under low power, but it still had enough juice to launch Jessica's jet. She sat in the cockpit, helmet locked, visor down, eyes focused dead ahead. The early sun bled through the clouds, painting the horizon in ash and gold. This time, she wasn't flying with her full squadron, just a 2-ship recon flight. Hers, and a modified ER-18G Growler flown by Lieutenant Nora Switch Simmons, packed with signal jamming and listening gear. "Raptor lead to tower," Jessica said. "Request green light for launch." A pause then. Green light. "Godspeed." "Commander." The catapult snapped. In an instant, Jessica was airborne again. The sky greeted her like an old rival wide, quiet and full of secrets. They climbed quickly to 25,000 feet, staying just above the low cloud cover. Jessica's HUD flickered occasionally, still affected by the residual static in the region, but her instincts were sharp. She wasn't flying instruments now. She was flying with something deeper purpose. Switch's voice crackled in her earpiece. Picking up traces of the signal again. Same pattern. "It's moving southeast. Slow drift. Could be a decoy." Jessica narrowed her eyes. "Then let's chase the ghost." Below them, the ocean gleamed, smooth and glassy. But something about it felt wrong. Too still. Too quiet. She banked left, scanning the open water for any shape, shadow, or anomaly. Nothing. No radar blips. No heat signatures. And yet, "Got something," Switch said suddenly. "Bearing 141. It's weak, but it's there. Doesn't match any known platform. Could be submerged. Could it be a sub? Not with that signature. It's broadcasting. Upward, not sonar. Radio, like it wants us to follow." Jessica pulled her stick left, angling toward the bearing. She didn't know what she was hunting, but it was calling to them, leading them, tempting them. As they neared the coordinates, her jet systems began flickering again. Random power drains, sensor ghosts, subtle shakes in the flight controls. It was like flying through a digital fog. "Switch, are you getting interference?" "Yeah," Switch replied. "Whatever's down there is putting out some kind of electronic field. It's not just broadcasting, it's scrambling." Suddenly, a warning light blinked on Jessica's dash. "Missile lock. Missile warning switch. Brake right." Both jets peeled off in opposite directions, diving fast and hard. But there was nothing on radar, no contrail, no heat bloom, no launch signature, just the warning. Then, nothing. Jessica leveled off, breathing hard. Switch's voice came back, shaken. "False alarm? Or something new?" Jessica didn't reply, because that was the second time they'd been seen, and the second time nothing appeared on screen. Her mind raced. EMP, signal distortion, phantom locks. They weren't dealing with weapons. They were dealing with systems being manipulated. Whoever this enemy was, they weren't aiming to destroy. They were collecting data, testing, and they were watching now. "Switch, go passive. Cut all active systems," Jessica said. "Let's fly cold and see if they blink." For the next 10 minutes, the jets flew silently, drifting like birds across a haunted sky. Then something appeared. Far below. A flicker. A shape. Small, sleek, half-submerged. A craft, not naval, not civilian. No markings. No wake. Jessica zoomed in. Her jaw clenched. It was a drone. A black, angular sea glider, the size of a torpedo boat, with no visible bridge or crew. Just a smooth, obsidian surface that shimmered in the light. Then it slipped below the surface. Vanished. Gone. Switch whispered, "Tell me you saw that." "I saw it." They circled once more, but it had disappeared. Jessica keyed her mic. "Raptor. Lead to Independence. We have visual confirmation of unknown stealth vessel, possibly autonomous. Engaged in active signal warfare. Coordinates marked." A beat of silence. Then the carrier answered. "Copy, Raptor. We're logging it now. Return to base. Debrief on landing." As Jessica turned for home, the signal returned in her helmet. Faint. Whispered, almost mocking, "You're not ready." Her blood chilled. Whatever they were up against, it was just getting started. Asterisk. By the time Jessica Hart touched down on the Independence again, the sky had shifted to a gray stillness. The crew was waiting for her on deck, tension etched into every jaw and tightened shoulder. She climbed down from her jet in silence, her mind still racing with what she'd seen and what she hadn't. Commander Harlan met her on the flight deck, eyes narrowed against the wind. "Well?" he asked. Jessica didn't answer right away. She pulled off her helmet, tucked it under one arm, and stared out at the open ocean. Somewhere out there, beneath the waves or hidden in digital static, was something humanity hadn't faced before. Not a missile, not a drone strike, a signal, a presence, a warning. "There's something new in the water," she finally said. "And it's not afraid of us." They moved inside. In the Combat Information Center, she pulled up the image they'd captured. Grainy, blurry, but clear enough to confirm what she'd seen. The unmanned stealth vessel. Sleek, silent, intentional. No flag, no signature, no heat, but it had been watching, and it had chosen that moment, during war games, under blackout conditions, to show itself. Harlan studied the image. "You think this was just a test?" Jessica nodded. "Yes, but not just of our systems, of our psychology, our reactions. They wanted to see how we'd respond when they pulled the plug, and how fast we could land when we were blind." He looked over. "And what did we show them?" Jessica's voice was steady. "That we're not as blind as they think." A long silence settled between them. The Navy's cyber warfare, Analysts were already poring over the signals Switch had recorded. Naval intelligence was rushing to triangulate the transmission origin. But Jessica knew the truth in her gut. They wouldn't find it, because whoever was behind it wasn't playing by known rules. This wasn't traditional espionage. It was quiet warfare. A silent first strike in a battle that didn't begin with bullets, but with code. Callahan entered the room with Reyes and Switch close behind. They all looked to Jessica like they were waiting for something, maybe orders. Maybe hope. She gave them both. "We're not flying blind anymore," she said. "We're flying with our eyes open. And if they come back, we'll be ready." Switch raised an eyebrow. "If?" Jessica shook her head. "They will." Reyes leaned against the console. "So what now? We hunt them? We stay in the air." Jessica said, "We train differently, smarter, not just for missiles or MiGs, but for silence, for systems going dark, for landing when the deck's gone black and no one's answering." Callahan gave a low nod. "A new kind of war." Jessica looked around the CIC, the blinking lights, the hum of partial power, the maps of blue ocean that offered no answers. "No," she said softly. "A war that's already started. They were the first to see it, to survive it. But they wouldn't be the last. Already, reports were trickling in from other fleets. Glitches in radar, reef signal losses, ghost contacts, all dismissed as routine. Until now. Jessica pulled her flight gloves tighter and stepped toward the exit. "I'll be in the sim room," she said. Callahan frowned. "Training again?" Jessica didn't stop walking. "From now on, we prepare for the dark." As she walked down the corridor, her steps echoing off the metal walls, the hum of the ship surrounded her, alive but wary. Like every steel being knew what had happened. Like the Independence itself had felt the intrusion. And as she stepped back onto the deck, she paused. The sea stretched out endlessly ahead. So calm. So empty. Too empty. She knew better now. The silence wasn't peace. It was the start of something louder than war. It was the breath before the storm. And next time, the lights might not come back on.